We're the RAGAMUFFINs and we love live music, so we want to know what makes a perfect gig. Every episode we're going to have a guest come on, tell us their dream 4-band lineup from opener to headliner, and have a little chat along the way. On this episode we're talking to Aaron Richardson, aka Lazyboyloops. He is a lo-fi producer and part owner of the record label Kiwibear Records. On this episode we talk about how he got into lo-fi music, the state of the lo-fi scene at the moment, starting his own record label, and a whole bunch more. You can check out his latest EP, Interstellar Sounds Volume 1, and its remix EP now, and they both sound fucking amazing. So this is the perfect gig for Lazyboyloops. So I guess we'll start at the beginning to break the ice. What was the first gig you ever went to?
Oh, that's a good question. The first gig I actually ever went to was in Nottingham Rock City.
Oh, right.
And that was when they released their is it Undergrown Eden, something like that. Now you're putting me on the spot. I'm trying to, it was when they had the single Underdose, and the album was the Overgrown Eden. Yeah, I was right.
I'm not too familiar. Are they heavy? I'm not really familiar with that band.
So they've evolved over time. They initially, yes, they were quite like heavy-ish, and then they're quite technical, or they've become quite technical over time as well. So they started off pretty heavy, quite shouty, singing shouty. I think the guy, what's the lead singer called? I want to say David, but I don't think it's David. He's got a great like scream and also like a singing voice as well, so that they kind of match up perfectly in there. Yeah, they're quite technical, and over time they've become a lot more technical. The lineup's changed. I think it's the lead singer and his brother, and then I think a drummer and a extra guitarist now, whereas before it started off just the lead singer on guitar, a bassist called Joe, and the drummer. But then over time they've added more members because it's become quite I guess a bit more progressive as well, technical and progressive. But yeah, they're pretty good. I definitely would recommend it. Overgrown Eden is probably up there as one of my favorite albums, but I'm probably going to say this a number of times throughout this entire thing.
What can you remember of the gig?
I was pushing the age that they were allowing for gigs, so this is one of those like 14 plus gigs, so I was like just 14. It was my first ever like gig ever. The only experience that I had of concerts was like what you'd see on TV, so like pop concerts, and people holding up signs that was like, "Oh, Backstreet Boys, I love you," and I thought this is me revealing myself super embarrassing. I made a sign. So this is like a typical like rock show. So I turned up with a giant like A3 paper sign that was like, "Oh, in me, you're awesome," thinking that was normal for gigs.
Yeah, like everyone's gonna have one.
Yeah. And then I was going to the show with people that were a couple of years above me in school, and they were just like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was like, it's a sign, so we could say like, "Oh, you're awesome." And they were like, "That's so embarrassing, like so cringe, like throw that away now." And, being a kid new to especially going out to a big city at night, I was quite like overwhelmed, and they were like, "Yeah, just go and chuck it in a bin." And I was thinking, I am not leaving this group at all. Like, so I like scrunched it up as small as I could and shoved it in my back pocket. And I was walking around with like, it was kind of thick paper as well, so I had like a really fat bum cheek on one side because of where I'd shoved in. But it was actually, I did everything all at once in that gig. I like first mosh pit, first crowd surf, because I was like, "Oh, what a crowd surf." The venue wasn't full at all. I don't know whether you've ever been to Rock City. It was a relatively small crowd for like a headlining show. Like, it wasn't at capacity at all. Like, there was room to walk around. So it was a case of me just kind of like my friends just throwing me up. I think I went over maybe 3 rows of people before I just fell on my ass out at the end of the over the barrier, and then just kind of let go on my way. And I thought, oh, that was amazing. So yeah, it was kind of do everything you can at once at this show, and I did it, and it was great. It was fantastic. First kind of introduction to a big like heavy rock gig, and I learned a hell of a lot.
Yeah, that's brave of you, because I don't think I was crowd surfing until I was maybe 16, 17. I'd never had the nerve to do it. So to go for your first show and start doing that, that's pretty hardcore.
I think I was just an absolute dumb kid and was like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. Like, I was just trying to live all of those kind of like cliches of rock shows at the time. I can't say I've ever done it again. I think the last time I tried to do it was a big mistake, and I think I just got dropped.
Because one thing I think is interesting from your Twitter, you post weekly what you're listening to, and you've got a very, very diverse taste in all genres of music, pretty much. So I was wondering for you, what was it that made you settle on making lo-fi music and sort of finding that genre? Because I think it's an interesting one for how diverse your taste is to settle on that, I think.
I think this comes from kind of having a background in like heavier music. So I've always been a band guy since before even the In Me gig. Like 12, 13, I was like playing bass, like learning bass, joining like school bands and stuff, and kind of doing the whole let's be a grassroots band and make it big. And over the years, it's quickly become I've quickly kind of realized that I'm not good in those situations. I'm not sure this is the word, but I'm a bit of a narcissist when it comes to like bands and stuff. I feel like the way that I do things is the right way to do things. And I will straight up admit that I'm that problem in bands that think it's my way or this is wrong. And I'd probably say over the past, since before the pandemic, I've realized that I can't be in bands unless they do what I do. And the last one I was in was just a complete like disaster. So I realized that I wanted to make music, and I'm not really great at making like bandy type music. Like, I have all of the instruments, I've got guitars, drums, whatever, but sitting there and trying to make like decent music in that sense of the word, I've always found quite difficult. But there was just something with lo-fi that was a lot more accessible in terms of like music creation. I've said this a couple of times before, in that it's a relatively easy genre to get into if you're learning like music production and things like that. There are fortunately and unfortunately a lot of resources that are available to you to make that kind of music really, really, really easily. And that was kind of what I fell into. I had the fallout with this band, and I was just like, look, I just want to do music for me. I've been listening to kind of lo-fi on and off as part of the things that I listen to. I joked with a friend before that when creating we had a playlist that we were working on, and if it started to get a bit too samey, the best thing to do was just to throw some lo-fi tracks in there to break everything up. Yeah. So that was always quite funny. And then it's just kind of part of it. And like my first releases I'm still kind of proud of those first releases, but I've definitely, the learning process of how to produce music, music marketing, releasing music, and really understanding how the music business works has been something that I've thoroughly enjoyed, both personally and also, as I'm sure we'll get into, running a label and kind of utilizing that stuff and getting music that isn't necessarily my own out there. So yeah, it was just kind of a part of it. It was easy to make, but then over time I've realized that there are different aspects to the genre as a whole, because it's quite as I'm sure you can agree, quite a broad genre. That you've obviously got like your sleepy lo-fi, your like more 90s leaning instrumental hip hop style lo-fi and stuff like that, and it was kind of me forging my path through this kind of lo-fi forest to try and find where I sit and learning how each of those different type or styles of that music work.
Yeah, the parallels are so similar, because I was the same throughout school. I had bands that if I wasn't sort of steering the ship, it would frustrate me quite a lot. And again, I think it was during the lockdown in 2020, I just sort of thought, fuck it, I'll just make some music myself. And like you said, it's such an easy genre to start writing and producing. I think my first release was all done on GarageBand on my phone, just because I was that desperate to just do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean about sort of wanting to be in control. Let's move into your perfect gig and hear the first band you've got picked.
Okay, so this is, I'm sure nobody listening to this that know me will be surprised, but the perfect gig is obviously going to have Korn there. But specifically the Woodstock '99 lineup, or
Okay,
around about like '98 to '99, where they were kind of in their prime, absolutely smacked off their faces on alcohol and drugs, and just they were putting out probably their best music at that point. And I've seen them twice, I think 3 times. I've seen them a couple of times, but never the full lineup. Like never the full lineup. I saw them at Download in 2000 and either 2004 or 2005, and I believe Monkey had to stay away for some reason, or David had to stay away. I can't. One of the members wasn't there, and they had been temporarily replaced at that point, so didn't see the full lineup there. Then I saw them in Brixton, maybe 2008, 2009, and I think Fieldy at that point had to fly home because he was ill, or there was some sort of family issue, so he wasn't there. And I also think at that point, I don't think Head was in the band at that point either, so I was just seeing like just 2 members of the band, which was super disappointing. So I would absolutely love to just go back in time and have the like 97 to 99 lineup of Korn at this show, because they'll be playing like their best, arguably their best music. Their self-titled is a masterpiece. Life is Peachy is like my favorite all-time album. I have it tattooed on me.
That's huge.
And Follow the Leader is good. It was their mainstream release. It does have some bangers on it. And I think that's potentially all they had at that point. Maybe they were working on issues after that, but yeah, definitely Korn have to be there. Was
Fieldy a big influence on you picking up bass then?
Absolutely, yeah, without a doubt. Not so much now. He's not in the band at the moment. The reasons as to why is debatable. He's taking a break for because he's fallen into bad habits, but he's currently kind of doing the promotional rounds with his other band called Stillwell, and the social media posts that he's putting out at the moment are quite erratic, and it's kind of sad to see. I think he's definitely fallen back into addiction and stuff like that, and with everything that Korn have been through at the moment, I think they're all very much teetotal and just absolutely like no drugs, no alcohol, nothing like that. Like it's just absolute no. And I think there's talk that he's potentially been fired, so take of that what you will.
Yeah, that would be a real shame if that is true, just because it's such an iconic part of their sound is his bass playing. So yeah, hopefully he can rejoin the lineup. But I think that is such a strong first pick. So you'd have them opening.
Oh, okay. We're going this that they would have to headline.
Okay,
are we going? I'm going backwards. I realize
we can go backwards. That's fine.
Okay. I can no. All right, let's go back. Let's rewind. We're gonna open up then with a band called Pulses.
Pulses.
Yeah, and they are essentially a modern day Fall of Troy. They very much have Fall of Troy influences in their guitar playing. They could fall into Swancore as well, and they're just a hell of a lot of fun. They don't kind of take themselves too seriously. They're kind of just a bit of a they're just a fun band. They have a song on their debut album called I think it's called Juice, or I Like Juice. I Drink Juice, and it's literally just a song about juice. And it's they're super fun. If you're into kind of like the Fall of Troy and the stuff that could be considered like Swancore and stuff, a bit more technical, a lot of like tap-in type stuff. Their bass player is fantastic. Their bass is very prominent in the mix as well. And they're just a absolutely brilliant band, and they definitely need to be put out there a lot more.
No, is that a band you've seen live before?
Absolutely not. No, they are. I think they're potentially located in whatever state is VA. So they're there, and I don't think I don't think they've left the United States at the minute.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely love to see them live though. I feel like it'd be a lot of fun, like those kind of like what the fuck is up Denny type shows.
yeah.
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they did a show in Denny's.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love Do you know what? I'd love to go to a Denny's show. I think it'd just be
Right.
so much fun.
We should just rock up at a McDonald's sometimes, and we'll just
Yeah.
what
Just
the fuck
jam
is up,
out.
Rondons?
Circling back to your label then, Kiwibear Records. What was the sort of decision behind starting that, and the sort of, I guess, the mission statement for that label?
To kind of just do that kind of blanket thing is like putting the artist first. But the strongest reason why I wanted to create the label was because I felt, and this goes back to what I was saying about bands and stuff, is not having. I feel like I could do it right or do it better, in my opinion. I'd worked with a couple of like lo-fi labels in the past that personally I didn't feel they did a very good job with my music. At the end of the day, they're taking something that I have worked on, whether I worked on it for a week, month, year, I'd put time into creating this piece of art and handing it over to a label for them just to kind of send it through to a distributor and put it on a playlist and then just call it a day. I didn't feel like that was the right thing to do, especially for those labels that also maybe didn't provide artwork, didn't provide any social assets, the communication was poor, just all these different kind of elements that I feel like a label should do more with. So my ethos for creating this label was to do everything that I would want as an artist. So that's being absolutely as transparent as possible and upfront with artists as to what we're doing with their music, showing them at what stage they can expect like assets or us to even post on social media or add to our playlists, and to show that we're actually putting time into working on their release specifically and not just kind of it being lost in a sea of other releases. And I guess compared to other like lo-fi labels, we do release very slowly. For the most, we'll just put out one release a week, whereas some labels within the lo-fi scene are doing like 3 to 4. In some cases I've seen like 6 releases a week, which is
Too much,
absolutely
isn't it?
insane. Yeah. And I don't see how any care or attention can be given to 6 releases in a single week, unless obviously you have specific people in your team working directly with those artists. But I don't think that's the case, to be honest.
And I'm right in thinking it's not just limited just to lo-fi artists. Your
No,
label.
it's not. And this kind of expands more into what I would like. I say that we're focused more on bedroom. So we've got like obviously like your bedroom producers that make like lo-fi and stuff like that, but we also would like to work with like bedroom pop or bedroom indie artists, or singer-songwriters, like rappers, hip-hop artists and stuff like that, and kind of like alternative R&B, even like alternative pop as well. We're keen to kind of jump more into that side of things. But having a couple of those releases under our belt at the moment is definitely an eye-opener on how different those worlds are, because of how insanely, I guess it is kind of easy to market lo-fi, because there are so many playlists that you can sit there and pitch to. I've worked on a spreadsheet that I've shared out with artists that help them like pitch to curated playlists, and there are so many there that are accepting like submissions and stuff. Like you can pop yourself on a couple of playlists that maybe get you 100 to 2 to 3,000 listeners within a month, which coming from that band background is absolutely wild. Like if I was in a band that we put music out on Spotify and we had like 1,000 monthly listeners, my mind would be absolutely like blown. Like, oh my god, there's 1,000 people that have listened to my band. But unfortunately, I guess unfortunately in lo-fi, that those numbers have just become so inflated because of how, I guess, passive lo-fi is and how easy it is for people that just kind of throw on those lo-fi playlists and listen to it. So when we're given a hip hop release that's a bit more substantial, we really have to kind of think about how we can get that out to the world. Yes, all right, there are like hip hop playlists that will add placements and stuff, but ideally we want to get that out to bigger tastemakers like music publications like Complex or Consequence of Sound or Ear Milk, things like that. So people that are interested in finding those new artists are finding it from those people rather than just kind of throwing on a passive playlist.
That you bring up a really interesting point that I wanted to bring up anyway, and that's the sort of the passiveness of lo-fi fans, I guess you could say, because any other genre really is sort of dedicated fan bases that actively follow artists. Whereas I feel like, for me especially, like my Instagram, my following list is just full of other lo-fi producers, and it's just sort of an echo chamber of everyone sharing just their own releases with everyone. Do you think there's any way for lo-fi music to break out of that, or do you think we're just sort of so set in our ways now?
There is, and there has been, but on one hand, it's a lot of those artists that have that kind of got in on the ground floor. So you have like Evie, Jinsang, Swum, BSDU, Beside You, however you pronounce it. They've all kind of, some people might disagree, but they kind of jumped in on this early. They were making this type of music, very sort of early days of when instrumental lo-fi hip hop was taken off. So they've kind of become household names because of how kind of staple they are to that lo-fi sound. But also you've kind of got relatively newcomers that have kind of broken out and I guess broken the mold by utilizing social networks, especially like TikTok. And the first one that comes straight to mind is an artist called El Dre, and he's done a fantastic job of building a community around the videos that he puts out on TikTok and things like that. And he met huge success by doing a lo-fi version of the Steven Universe soundtrack. And I'm sure if you just pop it on, you will have been through 100 TikToks that use that sound. And I think last time I checked, that song itself was hitting maybe about, I would probably even say maybe 1 billion streams at this point. Like it's insane. So I think utilizing kind of social media and making something different that isn't just the same old kind of like laid back lo-fi beats, definitely utilizing things like TikTok and Instagram to create something different and stand out, whether that's in visuals or even the music itself, is definitely a good way that you can reach like actual fans that aren't just other producers. But because of the vastness of lo-fi itself, it's not going to be easy.
Let's move on to the second band on your perfect gig then.
Okay, well, it would be third because I did throw Pulses out there.
Yeah.
So the next one, so we'll have Pulses that will open up, and then coming on afterwards, in a similar vein but not, would be Trico.
Okay.
Japanese math rock band. Really? Japanese math rock. They are brilliant. I believe they're all female, but they've had a drummer that kind of comes in. They've swapped their drum around a lot, and I think when I saw them live, they had a male drummer, I believe. I don't know, I could be totally wrong, but yeah, all girl Japanese math rock band. They are the sweetest little buttons. Seeing them live, they can barely speak a lick of English, and they were trying their best, and it was just so sweet. And the gig in itself was just, you could tell that everyone was there listening and appreciating the music that they were putting out, and it was really nice. It was just a really, really nice gig. They are, again, they're another super fun band, super technical as well. Bass player she's brilliant, and just the whole vibe is great. I definitely recommend listening to their album, The, depending on what you say, how you pronounce it. But yeah, they've got a lot of music that they've put out, so there's no shortage of tracks there.
Oh, nice. Do you have any sort of, as this is your perfect gig, if you could sort of curate their set list, is there any specifics you would want? Any one album you wanted them to play, or do you want them just let loose?
Oh, I don't know whether I just want them to play their the and albums in full.
Yeah.
Because I've back to front their album. But then they've got a fun song that they released not too long ago called Dogs and Ducks, which is quite fun. And yeah, their Audio Tree live lineup was pretty good as well.
Okay. That's definitely one for me to check out. Yeah.
Definitely have too much for me to recommend.
Yeah.
But yeah, a good starting point would be their the album and their and album.
Okay, cool. Nice one. And then the final band, I guess the sub headliner before Korn,
Yeah, the sub headliner would be a band called Sixth.
Very nice pick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're probably that was an interesting discovery because I so being super into Corn at the time, like was really into that, and I got a Rock Sound magazine that when they used to come with the CD. I don't know if they still do, and yeah, it listening. I think that it was "Hold My Finger" that was on the CD. And one thing that I really liked was Mikey's vocals sounded a lot like Jonathan Davis's scats,
Okay.
and him just going like off. I was like, okay, this is insane, and I hadn't heard anything like as technical and progressive as this band at the time. And I took a deep dive, and weirdly enough, like they must have been doing well for them to be in Rock Sound, because a lot of their music was available on like LimeWire at the time. Like this is going back when this came out, so I was going around like just trying to find everything, and I found all the different versions of some of their main album releases, because they had a lot on their Translating the Name EP. Nope, that's not. It's Let the Transmission Begin. Translating the Name is Sayerson. And yeah, I really took a deep dive, bought their album as soon as it came out, and I pretty much back to front that album so much. Saw them live when they played with Machine Head. Again, when was this, like 2007, 2006, 2007? That was an absolutely phenomenal gig, and I've seen them live a few times since then. Like they are an incredible band.
Well, I saw them supporting, I believe it was Slipknot. I think it was Slipknot and then maybe Korn, perhaps, on the bill. And yeah, they blew me away. They were very, very impressive, especially for like an arena show.
Yeah.
For a band that technical, to sometimes it sort of loses its sort of spark if it's in a room like too big for a band that technical, but they were really exceptional.
Yeah, they have some incredible talent. Like again, the bass player is absolutely insane. Like some of the bass lines that guy's come up with, and it was kind of, I guess, second foray into someone using like slap bass lines in music that was really coming out and being in it fit. One of the songs I'd recommend for that would be like "Scent of the Obscene." The bass line in that track is phenomenal. Like the start of "Hold My Finger" with it's kind of like sounds like a percussion sound, but it's just like muted like slap bass that I've tried to replicate my entire life. And yeah, just the whole thing. The guy's called James, fantastic bassist. Another reason why I wanted to pursue bass playing. And yeah, he's just knocked out of the park in pretty much every release that they've done. But definitely, The Trees That Died Dead and Dried Out, Wait for Something Wild is an album that I would say, like, again, back to front, like, phenomenal.
Would you want them to play that in full?
Absolutely. Though to be fair, they're playing a couple of gigs in London, I think, soon, and they've asked fans to vote on their set list, and pretty much what people have voted for, like, I think that's spot on. They've
cool.
done some great picks, and they've been sharing it on their social media, and I've been keeping up, and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a gig that I don't want to miss, and I'm like, I don't think I can go there.
One more question I wanted to ask you before we start to wrap things up. Back in March, you did a beat a day challenge.
Yep.
First of all, I don't think I have the dedication or the just energy for that. How was it doing that? And did you end up actually sort of getting any songs that were worthwhile like from it, or did it sort of become quite creatively draining towards the end?
It was the worst thing I've ever done. So I've always wanted to do kind of like a beat a day challenge type thing, and I set out to do it in March, and I was like, okay, I wanted to film it and make some sort of video content out of it as well. And I was like, okay, the only way I can kind of make this viable, because I don't want it to fill my entire day, was if I set myself even like a sub challenge within that beat a day thing of writing in an hour. So every single one of the songs that I made throughout March, so that's 31 in total, was created within an hour. Some days it was absolutely perfect. I'd set to do it in the morning because that was just when I felt like more creatively available to do it. And plus I didn't want, again, drain into my day. Sometimes it was great. I'd wake up, start laying down some like chord progressions, or I'd find a nice sample, I'd mix it, chop it up and things, and I'd be like, yeah, this is an absolute banger. There was other days where it just wouldn't work, and I'd be 45 minutes down and I'd be like, I need to do something and I hate what I'm doing at the minute. So it would be like a 15-minute scramble to try and find, either just put some chords together, build around that, call it a day. And at the end of it, I did feel a bit creatively drained, but at the same time I learned a lot, in that, you know, it's always good to kind of set yourself this challenge and be happy that you're done, not necessarily happy that it's perfect.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of put something down and say that, okay, this is finished. It's not great, but it's finished, was a real great way of kind of stopping myself from doing that kind of over perfection thing where I'm just sitting there and tweaking just something that the average listener would just never even notice. The second thing I found, that there are a lot of flaws in the way that I build chord progressions. I realized that I was very blocky, and that it's like one chord, next chord, next chord, next chord, rather than trying to find creative ways to kind of bring those chords together. So everything felt quite blocky, and I realized that's my flaw. So I need to work on, you know, expanding that instrumentation a little bit more. As for whether some of those tracks were viable, I've released, I think, well, my last EP had 3 tracks from the Beta Day challenge in it, and so far I've released 9 of them, 9 of the 31. There's definitely a few that I want to go back to and kind of expand on a little more, and there's definitely a good portfolio of tracks that I would like to work on and put out a lot more, but it's just kind of getting around to it that I'm finding difficult.
Yeah. I just want to hear the venue you would like for your perfect gig to take place in.
I haven't been to that many venues, so I'm kind of just going to go to that default, like Nottingham Rock City. It's not too big. It's not too like kind of small. It's nice. I'm just familiar with it. I'm kind of going with familiarity there. Yeah, I found Brixton Academy a little bit too big and overwhelming. Nottingham Rescue Rooms it's nice, quite intimate, but at the same time, you're quite like hemmed in. I think I've been to be fair though, Mama Roo's in Birmingham is really nice as well. That's got quite a 3-tier system. So there's like a balcony, and then I think there's a higher floor as well, which is really nice. So that would be a good venue. But again, I'm just going back to the familiarity of Rock City. That's kind of where I've seen the majority of all of the gigs that I've been to, and it kind of it suits its purpose.
Nice. It was a love when I went there. I think I was maybe 15, 16, and it was a great venue. It felt at the time massive, but in retrospect, I can't actually remember if it is that big.
It's pretty big, especially when they opened the basement as well. Because we went to when they. Do you remember the Taste of Chaos tour that happened?
Yeah.
We went to that at City, and they had like both the stages going on at the same time, and that made the venue just seem absolutely insanely huge.
Thank you so much for this. Anything you want to plug? You're gonna have to do it quickly.
Listen to Lazyboyloops. Throw on my playlist and just go about your day.
Nice one.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you so much for this.
No worries.
So for Lazyboyloops, that was a perfect gig. If you like this episode, make sure you hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. We've got some really exciting guests coming in the future, and we can't wait to share them with you. Like I said at the beginning, Interstellar Sounds Volume 1 and its remixes by Lazyboyloops are both out now, available to stream wherever you get your music. Us Ragamuffins have a podcast every month where we talk about the latest news, music and trends in alternative music. And we also have a bunch of content on our YouTube channel, including vlogs, tier lists, beginner's guides, opinion pieces, video essays, and so much more. So make sure if you're watching on YouTube to hit subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you hit follow and leave a 5-star review.